Thank you also to Denise and Kevin and everyone at Silicon Valley Forum. I can't believe that I'm honored with this group. I mean, it's just unbelievable. Thank you. And thank you for the way that you carry Silicon Valley values out into the world. It's really wonderful. I also just want to thank some of the Code for America team, well, all of the Code for America team, but there are 3 of them here tonight. Jessica Silverman, where's Zoe? Zoe Blumenfeld over there, and Marianne Konkovi, our COO, are here tonight. Thank you guys for being here. But we have an amazing team. We have just a wonderful team of people who've really done the same thing, which is just take a leap of faith and do this super crazy thing. There's just so many people that have made Code for America possible. People like Stacy Donahue, who is a principal at Omidyar Network, which I hope you all know, who's just believed in us from the beginning and has been supporting us. A lot of the sort of pillars of Silicon Valley, John Doerr, Reid Hoffman, and others support our work and make this all possible. And it's really a community that makes Code for America happen. So thank you very much. And I have another thank you that I just want to save for the end. Which you'll understand. But I wanted to take this opportunity just to say a few words. Kevin and Denise, you both talked a little bit about kind of what Silicon Valley means to the rest of the world, and I have a few things to say about that. At Code for America recently, we've been working, as Tim said, on a wide range of government issues, but most recently we're working on government services that help the vulnerable people in our society. And in that community, Silicon Valley is known as the great creator of inequality. It's the engine of an unequal society. And that may be true in some ways, and I think we do need to grapple with that. There's a great quote by a woman named Emily Gorensky. She says, "If we want the wealth and glory that comes from creating a deep, non-removable dependency on technology in our culture, we must also be willing to accept responsibility for the harm we cause and the people we leave behind." And we do need to grasp and grapple with that as part of our identity. But what I want to say here tonight is that what we do at Code for America gives us a really unique perspective into a way that Silicon Valley isn't the problem, or isn't just the problem. Silicon Valley and the people and the practices of Silicon Valley are the solution to that problem. What we do at Code for America is not really about bringing technology into government, though we do that. We export from Silicon Valley something much, much more valuable than that. And that's a focus on what we call users, but it's known more popularly as people. We take a user-centered, data-driven, and iterative approach to solving problems using very lightweight technology. Governments don't have a problem with technology. They have a lot of technology. It's very expensive technology. The problem isn't the budgets are too small. We're spending about $172 billion a year on government technology. The problem is that most of that money is spent on terrible, outdated technology that was built to comply with regulations, not to actually work for people. And the consequences of this are not just annoying, because I know they annoy us, they're devastating. They are devastating to the people who work in government. Please, the next time that you're in line at the DMV and you're really frustrated, think about the person on the other side of the counter. That person's probably using a green screen or something else that you would not enjoy using. Hate the system, not the people, please. These consequences are also devastating to the people that government is supposed to serve. All that frustration that you have felt in those situations, whether it was standing in line or dealing with a regulatory issue for your business, imagine that what was at stake wasn't renewing your driver's license, but keeping the custody of your child. Or maybe it was getting food assistance so that you have the ability to put food on your table so your kid goes to school being fed that day. Or maybe what's at stake is your freedom, because you're at risk of being incarcerated because you got a ticket for running a stop sign, and then you had to choose between standing in line all day at the courts or keeping your job, because your job might not let you take the day off. And then you've ended up with a bench warrant for your arrest. That's the kind of frustration and pain that we don't always understand. And by the way, do you guys know what a bench warrant is? No? So I had also not heard of a bench warrant until I read a New York Times article about bench warrants. There's a city in Missouri that had 1.5 bench warrants per person in 2013. Can you guess what city that was? We've all heard of it. It's Ferguson. These things make a really big difference to the functioning of our democracy. And that's what I'm really talking about. These consequences are devastating to people, and they're devastating to the trust and faith that we have in our democracy. We finally realized that if we can't make a website that works, we can't govern. I'm glad we finally figured that out. And of course, all of this is changing. Tim referred to the work at Code for America and the United States Digital Service, and there's so much optimism for this. But I want you to understand, for example, what's going on. So, for example, in 2014, California voters passed something called Proposition 47. One of the provisions of that law is that if you have a low-level offense on your record, a felony offense, you can dismiss it or reduce it so that you don't have to check that felony box when you apply for a job. If you've got a felony, you can't get a job, you can't get housing, you can't apply for student loans, you're permanently stuck in the underclass. Well, California voters said, let's not do that anymore. Let's let people take that off their record so they're not stuck in the underclass. And the will of the people was spoken. But fast forward to 2016, in LA, for example, there are about 690,000 people, believe it or not, who are eligible to expunge their records, and only about 50,000 people have even tried to do this. They've even started the process. That's 7% of people have even tried to expunge their records. So were we wrong? Do people not care about this? Do they love checking that felony box when they apply for a job? No. What you find out if you dig into this, as we do at Code for America and our teams do, is that the process is 10 steps long. Each step is crazy, maddening. It's really confusing. You start with a form that you don't understand, that you can't find, that you may not know about. Step 3 is you get your rap sheet. Coders in the audience, if you're a coder, reading a rap sheet is much, much harder than reading computer code. I've tried it. It's crazy. And it takes about a year, and it takes an incredible persistence to get through the process because we've designed it so badly. That's why people aren't expunging their records. And this is really a problem because the will of the people was to change this, and we haven't made it execute. We haven't actually been able to do this. Now, the good news is it's fixable. This is one of many, many, many programs that we're fixing at Code for America, including food stamps, probation, job retraining. It's not that hard. You put on a much simpler, clearer online form, and you follow up with people by text message. And we can follow users and understand the barriers that they face. And when we tell government about them, they change them. Because guess what? The people in government want to change this too. But the problem is that through no political wrongdoing, we're not respecting the will of the people. And it's because the will of the people, the people were involved in the idea, but not sufficiently involved in the execution of that idea. And this is really what I mean about Silicon Valley practices being part of the solution to the problems in our society. Yes, Silicon Valley has big ideas. We're known for big ideas. But Tim and I like to, I don't know why we like this line, but it's from the Social Network movie. Fictional Mark Zuckerberg says, if you guys were the inventor of Facebook, you'd have invented Facebook. So the Winklevoss twins had this great idea, but it was Zuckerberg who made the idea real. He made something that people used, and then he saw how they used it, and they made it a little bit better every day. If we built things like expungement of your record that way, the people who were eligible would be using it, and the will of the people would be realized. It's election season. We're all confused. We don't know what's going on. People are hugely disconnected from society. We don't understand why people are voting the way that they do. And what I would say is they're disconnected. We've got to reconnect them. We've got to show that the will of the people can be executed. We have to connect it back to what actually happens. And that is our future, and that's what I'm so excited about. We're using the Silicon Valley playbook to bring the people, we the people, back into government. And not just through politics, and honestly, not just through policies, which are very important, but insufficient. It's through implementation and execution. We're through making government actually work for all people, and where we are at Code for America, starting with those that the tech industry has unfortunately left behind. Of course, we can't do this alone. We're taking some of the experiments to scale, as Tim said. We're starting with fixing food stamps first, all the way across California, and then nationally. And I hope that you will all join me in this movement, because we really do need to make We the People mean something again in the 21st century and in the digital age. And that's what we're here to do. And I did say I was going to say one thank you for the end, and that thank you is for anybody in the room, and a person in the room in particular, who currently does public service and takes these difficult jobs in government, because we don't honor them enough, we don't understand what they're dealing with, and we need to support them and give them a lot of love. So thank you for anybody in the room who has been a public servant or will be. You should. Thank you so, so much.